the only real temple that excavated in Judah, in Israel. And the unique thing is that this is a temple that was built during the time that, according to the Bible, Solomon built his temple, only 7 kilometers from here in Jerusalem.
For 5,000 years, it was sealed. And when scientists finally opened King Solomon's tomb, it was nothing like they expected. It was supposed to be the greatest discovery in history. For centuries, it was hidden from the world until now. But unlocking Solomon's tomb may have unleashed something else entirely. Join us as we unravel the discoveries in King Solomon's final resting place. King Solomon's tomb. King Solomon, a well-known figure in biblical stories and ancient history, is famous for his great wisdom, incredible wealth, and for building the first temple in Jerusalem. For many years, people thought his tomb was a lost piece of history. Now, after 5,000 years, a group of archaeologists has reportedly found his burial site. The quest to find Solomon's tomb has puzzled historians for many generations. This significant discovery was made possible by using advanced technology, like ground-penetrating radar and 3D mapping. These non-invasive methods helped researchers locate the burial site in a previously unexamined area close to Jerusalem. After years of renovations costing nearly €1 million, the Tomb of the Kings in Jerusalem is now accessible to the public. Medieval Europeans thought this site held the graves of King David and King Solomon. The tombs were first built in the 1st century CE, but were used for many years after that. The site was first dug up in 1863 by the French archaeologist Louis-Félicien de Saulcy, who wanted to prove that the tombs belonged to David and Solomon. This excavation is seen by some as the first modern archaeological dig in Jerusalem, where several sarcophagi were found. One of these sarcophagi, which is now in the Louvre Museum in Paris, had 2 lines of Aramaic inscribed on it that said Sadan the Queen and Sada the Queen. While Saulcy believed the inscription referred to the wife of King Zedekiah, other researchers think the sarcophagus belonged to Queen Helena of Adiabene, which is in present-day Iraqi Kurdistan. Josephus, a Roman Jewish historian from the 1st century, mentioned that Queen Helena converted to Judaism and settled in Jerusalem. In the 4th century, the Christian historian Eusebius of Caesarea noted that Queen Helena was buried in a tomb located 3 stadia, around 555 meters north of Jerusalem. Although some people still link the tomb complex to Helena and her family, others claim that it was built for Herod Agrippa, who was the grandson of Herod the Great. In the 1870s, a French citizen bought the Tomb of the Kings and gave it to the French government in 1886. Today, the site is enclosed by a tall stone wall and can be accessed through a large metal gate that has the words République Française Tombeau des Rois on it. Once you go through the gate, there's a platform that leads to a staircase that is 30 feet wide and has 23 steps going down to a forecourt with 2 cisterns. Rainwater flows into these cisterns through channels that are carved into the stone steps. These cisterns were likely used for ritual baths according to Jewish purification customs, which require naturally collected water. Even though the entrances to the cisterns are blocked by metal gates, you can still see most of the baths through the bars. Water continues to fill the cisterns and is also found in the stone channels on the steps. To the north of the cisterns, there's a big rock-cut archway that leads into a huge square courtyard that is 89 feet long, 89 feet wide, and 30 feet deep. Creating this courtyard required removing over 700,000 cubic feet of bedrock. The area is scattered with many pieces of carved stone blocks, decorative features, and columns that were uncovered during the excavation. The entrance to the tombs is found through a rectangular facade that is carved into the western wall of the courtyard. This facade is 92 feet high and is topped with a stone architrave that has reliefs of grapes, wreaths, acanthus leaves, and triglyphs. Originally, this architrave would have been held up by 2 pillars, the remains of which were found during the excavation. The tombs can be accessed through a small opening located on the southern side of the porch. Even though this entrance is secured with locked metal grates, you can still see the entrance to the tombs and the large stone that would have sealed it. The underground tombs cover more than 820 square feet and include a main antechamber surrounded by 3 burial chambers which connect to 4 smaller rooms. Each burial chamber has at least 6 niches with stone shelves that used to hold sarcophagi. For a while, access to these underground tombs has not been allowed due to safety and preservation issues. The Tomb of the Kings is situated in East Jerusalem, specifically in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, about half a mile north of the Old City, at the crossroads of Salah ad-Din Street and Nablus Road. There is no parking available on site, but you can find some street parking on nearby roads, and the location is within walking distance from the American Colony Hotel and several public bus stops. To visit the Tomb of the Kings, one needs to make an online reservation. One can only buy 3 tickets for reservation, and a maximum of 30 people are allowed inside during each of the 2 time slots. The tickets also state that all visitors should be suitably dressed for a funeral site. Visitors with limited mobility should think twice before going to the Tomb of the Kings, as the only way to access the site is via a long staircase, and much of the ground inside is uneven. However, for those who don't have mobility issues, a visit is definitely worth it. While the tomb left them speechless, the real mystery unraveled inside what's believed to be Solomon's sacred temple. And just when experts thought they had seen it all, new findings around the ruins of his temple stunned them once again. Let's find out what was discovered in the temple. The Temple of Solomon. Archaeologists highlight the first artifacts from the era of Solomon's temple ever discovered on Temple Mount. In a rare collaboration with Muslim authorities, a series of excavations at contentious sites in recent years has provided unprecedented evidence of activities from biblical times. Israeli archaeologists revealed new information about what they claim are the first small artifacts found in their original location on the Temple Mount that have been definitively dated to the period of the First Temple, which is over 2,600 years ago. These findings were made during limited scientific digs conducted on the contentious Temple Mount over the last decade, marking the first such excavations since the British Mandate. The sensitive Israeli excavations were carried out with minimal publicity and in partnership with the Islamic WAQF, which oversees the volatile holy site. The artifacts retrieved from the mount, discussed in a paper and presentations at a conference at Hebrew University, reportedly include olive pits, animal bones, and pottery shards that date back to the time of the First Temple, between the 8th and 6th centuries BCE. While archaeologists have previously discovered a small number of artifacts from the First Temple period in Jerusalem, none of those were found directly on the mount itself. Instead, they were located in the Ophel excavations to the south of the mount and from the Temple Mount Sifting Project, which analyzes rubble that is believed to have been taken from the holy site and discarded in the nearby Kidron Valley. Yuval Baruch, the head of the Israel Antiquities Authority, stated that it was the first time artifacts from that era have been found in their original context on the Temple Mount. The excavations at the mount took place from 2007 until last year, after the WAQF asked Israel for permission to do maintenance work on the infrastructure that supports the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Dome of the Rock, which are the main buildings located on the Temple Mount. Earlier WAQF projects on the Temple Mount, like the building of the Marwani Mosque in the late 1990s, didn't work with archaeologists and led to the loss of historical artifacts and serious conflicts between Israel and the Islamic authorities. The IAA had previously made a few announcements about its work on the Mount, sharing short details about First Temple discoveries. But the conference on Thursday was the first time they presented a detailed overview of nearly 10 years of work, the discoveries made, and their importance. In 2007, the digging of a trench for electric cables gave archaeologists their first chance to explore beneath the surface of this disputed holy site since Israel took control of it during the 1967 Six-Day War. All the work was done with police supervision because of the site's sensitivity. Even though the WAQF got the go-ahead from the Israel Police and Electric Corporation to install the power cable, some archaeologists at that time criticized the project, claiming it wasn't done with professional and careful archaeological supervision that included thorough documentation. While the Temple Mount sifting project has sifted through debris from the holy site that was excavated during the Marwani Mosque construction in the 1990s, these newly reported digs were the first archaeological investigation on the Temple Mount since the 1930s. The discoveries on the Temple Mount itself include a previously unknown monumental structure thought to be from the 11th and 12th centuries, the time just before and during the Crusades, as well as artifacts from Roman times and, for the first time in situ, items dating back to the First Temple period. Baruch mentioned that regarding the work on the Mount, it wasn't just about digging in a spot. Instead, it was more about inspecting the area, and through that process, discoveries were made. One of the most important finds during the installation of the power cable, located about 400 feet southeast of the Dome of the Rock, was a collection of remains from the First Temple period. Baruch, Ronnie Reich, and Deborah Sandhaus, who authored the paper on these discoveries, wrote that the layer contained pottery pieces from the 8th and 7th centuries BCE, along with animal bones and burnt olive pits. Carbon-14 dating of the olives showed dates ranging from the 6th to 8th centuries BCE, which aligns with the pottery dates. Another part of the same trench revealed a Roman coin from 383 CEE and iron arrowheads, which the authors noted could be uncommon evidence of activity during the Roman period in the area between the elevated section of the Temple Mount and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Baruch stated that there are more findings from the work done on the Temple Mount by the IAA that haven't been published yet, including conservation efforts in Solomon's stables, a hidden vault beneath the Temple Mount's platform. Over the past year, Baruch stated that despite all the claims and discussions, they were actively working on the Temple Mount. Supervising and operations were conducted under the authority of the IAA. These discoveries raised one burning question: who was Solomon, and why did his name echo through time like a myth carved in stone? Let's find out. King Solomon. Solomon was born in Jerusalem as the second child of David and his wife Bathsheba, who was the widow of Uriah the Hittite. The first child, who is not named in the story, was a son that was conceived during Uriah's life and passed away just 7 days after being born. It is implied in the scriptures that this was a punishment from God. Solomon had 3 full brothers with Bathsheba: Nathan, Shammua, and Shobab, along with 6 older half-brothers from different mothers. The biblical story indicates that Solomon acted as a peace offering between God and David, due to David's affair with Bathsheba. To cover up this sin, David sent Bathsheba's husband, Uriah the Hittite, into battle, specifically to the front lines, where he instructed the commander Joab to pull back support so that Uriah would be killed by the enemy. After Uriah's passing, David was able to marry Bathsheba. As a consequence, the first child conceived during the affair passed away. Solomon was born after David received forgiveness. This is why his name, which means peace, was chosen. Some historians suggest that Nathan the prophet raised Solomon while his father was busy ruling the kingdom. This could also be linked to the idea that the prophet had significant influence over David because he was aware of David's adultery, which was a serious crime under the Mosaic law. According to the first book of Kings, when David got old, he could not get warm. They looked for a beautiful young woman all over Israel and found Abishag, the Shunammite, and brought her to the king. The young woman was very pretty, and she helped the king and took care of him. But the king did not know her. While David was in this condition, different groups in the court were trying to gain power. Adonijah, who was supposed to be the next king, tried to declare himself king, but Bathsheba and the prophet Nathan outsmarted him. They convinced David to name Solomon as king, based on a promise he made earlier, which isn't mentioned anywhere else in the Bible, even though Solomon was younger than his brothers. Following David's instructions, Solomon started his reign by getting rid of many people, including his father's main general, Joab, and he strengthened his position by placing friends in important roles throughout the government, including in religious, civic, and military areas. It is said that Solomon became king when he was only about 15 years old. Solomon significantly increased his military power, especially in cavalry and chariots. He established many colonies, some of which served as trading posts and military bases. He also expanded the government. His administration focused on trade relationships. He continued his father's very successful partnership with Hiram I, the Phoenician king of Tyre. They organized joint trips to the lands of Tarshish and Ophir to trade luxury goods, bringing back gold, silver, sandalwood, pearls, ivory, apes, and peacocks. Solomon is known as the richest of the Israelite kings mentioned in the Bible. Solomon was the biblical king renowned for his wisdom. In 1 Kings, he made a sacrifice to God, and later, God appeared to him in a dream, asking what he desired. Solomon requested wisdom to better lead and guide his people. God was pleased with this request and answered Solomon's prayer, promising him immense wisdom because he did not ask for selfish rewards like a long life or the demise of his enemies. One of the most famous stories showcasing his wisdom is the Judgment of Solomon. Two women claimed to be the mother of the same child. Solomon quickly resolved the issue by ordering the child to be divided in half and shared. One woman immediately gave up her claim, showing that she preferred to lose the child rather than see it harmed. Solomon then declared the compassionate woman to be the true mother, deserving of the entire child. Traditionally, Solomon is believed to have authored several biblical texts, including Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Songs. He is also thought to have written the Wisdom of Solomon, which is part of the scriptures for the Eastern Orthodox and Catholic Church, but is viewed as apocryphal in Protestant beliefs. According to the Hebrew Bible, the ancient kingdom of Israel reached its peak of glory and wealth during Solomon's 40-year reign. In just 1 year, as noted in 1 Kings, Solomon gathered tribute totaling 666 talents, which is 18,125 kilograms of gold. He is described as surrounding himself with all the luxuries and splendor of an Eastern king, and his administration thrived. He formed an alliance with Hiram I, the king of Tyre, who significantly aided him in his many projects. For many years leading up to his passing, David worked on gathering materials to construct a temple in Jerusalem, which would serve as a permanent dwelling for Yahweh and the Ark of the Covenant. Solomon is noted for taking on the task of building the temple, with assistance from an architect named Hiram, along with other materials provided by King Hiram of Tyre. Once the temple was finished, the biblical accounts describe Solomon as also building several other significant structures in Jerusalem. He spent 13 years constructing a royal palace on Ophel, a hilly area in central Jerusalem. This complex included buildings known as the Hall of the Throne or the Hall of Justice, along with his own home and a residence for his wife, Pharaoh's daughter. Solomon's throne was said to be incredibly luxurious and featured moving parts, making it one of the earliest mechanical devices recorded in history. It was claimed that nothing like it, the throne, had ever been made for any other kingdom. Additionally, Solomon built extensive waterworks for the city and the Millo, Septuagint, Acra, to protect the city. However, archaeological digs in Jerusalem have not uncovered any monumental structures from that time, and no evidence of either the temple or Solomon's palace has been found. Solomon is also said to have rebuilt cities in other parts of Israel, established the port of Ezion-Geber, and developed Palmyra in the wilderness as a commercial hub and military base. While the location of the port of Ezion-Geber is known, no remnants have ever been discovered. More archaeological findings have been made regarding the major cities that Solomon is believed to have fortified or rebuilt, such as Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. These sites contain significant ancient remains, including impressive six-chambered gates and ashlar palaces. However, it is no longer widely accepted among scholars that these structures date back to the period when Solomon was said to have ruled, according to the Bible. According to the Bible, during the time of Solomon, Israel experienced significant economic success, with a lot of trade happening over land with Tyre, Egypt, and Arabia, as well as by sea with Tarshish, Ophir, and South India. The biblical story tells us that Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. The wives were mainly foreign princesses, including the daughter of Pharaoh, and women from Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, and the Hittites. His marriage to Pharaoh's daughter seems to have created a political alliance with Egypt, while he also loved his other wives and concubines. The only wife mentioned by name is Naamah the Ammonite, who was the mother of Solomon's successor, Rehoboam. The biblical account criticizes Solomon for allowing his foreign wives to bring their own gods, leading to the construction of temples for Ashtoreth and Milcom. In the field of literary analysis known as higher criticism, the story of Solomon being led into idolatry by Pharaoh's daughter and his other foreign wives is often viewed as the work of the Deuteronomistic historians. These historians are believed to have written, compiled, or edited texts to support the reforms of King Josiah, who ruled from about 641 to 609 BCE, which is over 280 years after Solomon passed away, according to biblical scholars. Scholars generally agree that Solomon's wives, women, were introduced in the Josianic, often referred to as the Deichter edition of Kings, as a theological way to attribute the division between Judah and the northern kingdom of Israel to his wrongdoings. In a short, mysterious passage, the Hebrew Bible tells how the reputation of Solomon's wisdom and riches reached the distant Queen of Sheba. She is said to have come with gifts like gold, spices, and precious stones. After Solomon fulfilled all her wishes, she left feeling content. It's unclear if this passage is just meant to show a foreign acknowledgement of Solomon's wealth and wisdom, or if the visit has a deeper meaning. However, the Queen of Sheba has inspired many stories. Sheba is usually thought to be Saba, a region that once stretched across the Red Sea, covering parts of what are now Eritrea, Somalia, Ethiopia, and Yemen. In Arabia, Felix. Other accounts suggest it was located in what is now northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. According to a rabbinical story, like Targum Sheni, Colloquy of the Queen of Sheba, Solomon had the ability to command animals to dance for him, a gift from God. When he called upon the mountain cock, or hupoi, in Aramaic, Nagar Tura, the bird informed him of a land in the east, abundant in gold, silver, and plants, with a capital named Kitor, and ruled by the Queen of Sheba. Solomon then sent the bird to invite her to visit. A 14th century Ethiopian text known as the Kebra Nagast states that the Queen of Sheba had a close relationship with King Solomon and gave birth near the Mai Bela stream in the Hamasien province of Eritrea. This Ethiopian tradition provides a thorough narrative of their affair. Their child was a son named Menelik I, who became the king of Aksum and established a dynasty that ruled as the Jewish, then Christian, Empire of Ethiopia for 2,900 years, until Haile Selassie was overthrown in 1974. Menelik was believed to be a devout Jew who received a replica of the Ark of the Covenant from King Solomon. Additionally, it is said that the original Ark was switched and traveled to Aksum with him and his mother, where it remains today, protected by a single devoted priest. The assertion of this lineage and the ownership of the Ark provided significant legitimacy and prestige to the Ethiopian monarchy over the years, influencing Ethiopian culture profoundly. The Ethiopian government and church refuse all requests to see the supposed Ark. Some rabbis from the classical era, criticizing Solomon's moral integrity, have suggested instead that the child was an ancestor of Nebuchadnezzar II, who destroyed Solomon's temple around 300 years later. Jewish scribes claim that Shimei ben Gera was Solomon's teacher, and during his lifetime, he stopped Solomon from marrying women from other nations. The Talmud mentions that as long as Shimei, the son of Gera, was alive, Solomon did not take the daughter of Pharaoh as his wife. The execution of Shimei marked Solomon's first step into wrongdoing. According to the book of 1 Kings, Solomon's wives turned his heart towards other gods, specifically their own national deities, for whom Solomon built temples. This act brought about divine anger and punishment, leading to the division of the kingdom after Solomon passed. The chapter detailed Solomon's fall into idolatry, especially his worship of Ashtoreth, the Sidonian goddess, and Milcom, the Ammonite god. Deuteronomy 17 instructs a king not to accumulate many horses or wives, nor to gather excessive amounts of gold or silver. Solomon failed in all these aspects. Besides his many wives, he amassed 666 talents of gold annually, which was an enormous sum for a small nation like Israel. He also collected numerous horses and chariots from as far away as Egypt, and as Deuteronomy warns, he spiritually led Israel back to Egypt. King Solomon is a key figure in the Bible, known for building the first temple in Jerusalem and being the last king of the United Kingdom of Israel. After ruling for 40 years, he passed away from natural causes at about 55 years old. After Solomon's passing, his son Rehoboam took over. But 10 of the tribes of Israel rejected him as king, resulting in a split of the monarchy. The northern kingdom of Israel was established under Jeroboam, while Rehoboam ruled over the smaller southern kingdom of Judah. From that point on, the two kingdoms were never reunited. Solomon is often linked to the height of the golden age of the independent kingdom of Israel, and is renowned for his legendary wisdom in judicial and religious matters. The historicity of Solomon, like many biblical figures from the Middle Era of Israelite society, is a topic of intense debate. Most experts today agree that whether or not a real person named Solomon ruled over the Judean hills in the 10th century BCE, the biblical portrayal of his empire's wealth is likely an exaggerated version of reality. When it comes to Solomon himself, scholars from both the maximalist and minimalist perspectives in biblical archaeology tend to believe that he probably did exist. However, piecing together an accurate historical image of the Davidic king is quite challenging. Some archaeologists suggest that Solomon might have only been the leader or chieftain of Judah, while the northern kingdom developed independently. This view has faced criticism from other archaeologists and scholars who maintain that a united monarchy was indeed present in the 10th century BCE, although they also agree that the biblical narrative includes some exaggerations. André Lemaire mentions in his book Ancient Israel, From Abraham to the Roman Destruction of the Temple, that the main aspects of the biblical story about Solomon are mostly reliable. But he also notes that he couldn't find any archaeological proof to back up the Queen of Sheba's visit to King Solomon. He points out that the earliest records of caravan journeys from Tema and Sheba to the Middle Euphrates region happened in the mid-8th century BCE, suggesting that the Queen of Sheba might have visited Jerusalem around this time, which is about 250 years later than the traditional period assigned to King Solomon's reign. 17 years later, evidence of cinnamon was discovered in Phoenician clay jars from 3 small locations in the Israeli coastal area, dating back to the 10th century BCE. The authors proposed that trade routes with South Asia were established much earlier than previously believed. Kenneth Kitchen contends that Solomon presided over a relatively affluent mini-empire instead of just a small city-state, and he views 666 gold talents as a modest sum. Kitchen estimates that over a span of 30 years, such a kingdom could have gathered up to 500 tons of gold, which is minor compared to other instances, like the 1,180 tons of gold that Alexander the Great seized from Susa. Likewise, Kitchen and others regard Solomon's temple as a reasonable and appropriately sized building for that region during that period. Dever claims that we now have direct Bronze and Iron Age parallels for every feature of the Solomonic temple as described in the Hebrew Bible. In 2014, anthropology professor Jimmy Harden and his team found 6 official clay bulle seals at a site called Khirbet Sumaili, which is located east of Gaza. He mentions that these bulle are linked to a political entity from Iron Age 2A, characterized by elite activities that date back to the 10th century BCE. These bulle seem to be the only known examples from this time period. In his opinion, this provides general support for the historical accuracy of David and Solomon as mentioned in the Hebrew biblical texts. Not much archaeological digging has been done around the area known as the Temple Mount, which is believed to be the site of Solomon's temple, because any attempts to excavate are met with protests from Muslim authorities of the Jerusalem UAQF. If you enjoyed this video, Like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.